Hey, everybody. On today's Locked On Bama, of course, we're going to talk about a huge commitment in Dylan Lonergan, the quarterback. And, man, this is a big one. I'm telling you, you guys are going to love this. If you hadn't gone and checked out his highlights, you need to do that. We'll talk about Dylan Lonergan. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff on today's Locked On Bama, brought to you by LinkedIn. Thank you so much for being with us, and here we go.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's a commitment day. So those are fun.
It's good to be back in the positive.
Yeah. Stop the bleeding. The bleeding has stopped.
And I think it stopped with not just with applied pressure. It stopped with a nice tourniquet, dressed by a good-looking nurse. It's Dylan Lonergan is a huge pickup. And look, I'm going to be honest, Jimmy. After this last weekend with all the Peter Woods hubbub and then Elliott Washington also decommitting, some other guys looking like potentially they may not be heading to Alabama for whatever reason. Dylan Lonergan as a second quarterback, meaning a guy that won't be on the field at the same time as the other quarterback that is ranked a little bit higher, didn't really move the needle much for me. So then I'll watch his live announcement. Number one, I love the way he handled himself. I didn't realize his dad played for Penn State, won a national championship. That's awesome. I got to see his highlights on CBS where he made this announcement. Whoa, the dude is a dude. He's an athlete, and it's not just that he's a good quarterback in high school. He's going to be a good quarterback next level, or he's going to 30-mile-an-hour fastball. They mentioned. He seems like a really good quarterback, very accurate, strong arm. On one play, he made a very long run, and nobody was catching him. It's just this is a big pickup. We needed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's already another top 10 quarterback in the class, so that's what makes this incredibly unusual. I mean, I can't tell you guys, it's not just unusual for Alabama, but in modern college football, signing two top 10 quarterbacks in one class is just sort of unheard of in modern times. It used to happen more often in the 80s and 90s, but just hardly ever happens anymore. But here Alabama pulls it off. I think so much of Dylan Lonergan, Luke, that if you change two things, like let's say he didn't play baseball, like he's not a baseball player, and Alabama didn't have Eli Holstein, I would be completely content with Lonergan being QB1. You know what I mean? I mean, if this was the one quarterback Alabama took in the class, I would be like, that's a win. That's a win. He's plenty good enough for that. If they decided, hey, we like Lonergan more than Holstein, we like Lonergan more than Vizino, we like Lonergan more than these other guys they could have gotten, I get it. And I would be on board with that. But you do have Holstein. He does play baseball. In that sense, he's as good of a QB2 as you can possibly imagine, because I think should he commit himself to football, and I think he can play football and baseball and still be really good at both. I think he could, but should he commit himself really to football, Luke, I can easily see Dylan Lonergan being the starting quarterback at Alabama. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. I'm really impressed. You mentioned some of this yourself from your eval of him watching the tape. He is super polished. He's super polished. He already looks like a college quarterback. When I watch his high school tape, that's what stands out to me. It's like, are we sure this isn't like a college redshirt sophomore that went back to play high school football? Because that's what he looks like. He doesn't just, it's not just the athleticism. It's, wow, is this, he just does everything so well and effortlessly and flawlessly. I mean, he's got a beautiful stroke. He is a very good athlete. He's got a great arm. It's not ridiculous, but he's got a great arm. He's got adequate size. he can run. I mean, he could be a run first guy. This is just a home run. And I guess pun intended with how good Dylan is in baseball. Let me tell you, Brad Bohannon probably happier than Nick Saban today. Saban's happy because he gets his guy. Bohannon's happy because maybe his best signee falls out of the skies and into his lap, and it didn't cost him a dime in scholarship money. So this is a great day for Brad Bohannon and the Alabama baseball program.
Yeah, it really is. That was my first thought too, was the real winner is Brad Bohannon at a time when he needs some good news himself. So, Jimmy, let me go ahead and tell everybody about LinkedIn right now. LinkedIn, of course, look, they've been a new sponsor. We appreciate them so much. As the sun comes out and small businesses are back in business, LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to grow your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people you want to interview faster and for free. Look, everybody's looking for people. LinkedIn is the best place to vet these people. Go check them out and go find the person that's right for the job. That's the best thing to do. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to and do it faster. Did you know that every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions will apply. But terms and conditions apply to everything, Jimmy. So anywho, going back to Lonergan for a second, I think this is great. You have a good article up. I call it a good article. Frankly, I haven't read it yet because you just posted it while I was driving to Birmingham. But
appreciate the assumption.
Well, I assume you got to write one good one eventually.
That's right. Maybe this is the time I got it right.
But anywho, even the Washington Generals beat the Globetrotters eventually.
That happened once.
Anyway, you have an article, and I'll let you just talk about this article about the times Nick Saban has signed multiple quarterbacks in the same class and how that's wound up. So the floor is yours, Jimmy. It's your article. Run with it. I have read it. I'm as anxious to hear about it as you are to tell it.
Well, it's happened 4 times. I was curious myself. I mean, it was my first thought when, when Lonergan, when we knew this was coming this morning, it was my first thought. And, how many times has this happened and what was the end result? And let's go ahead and rank. And I didn't rank them. I know this upsets people. Anybody say, well, of course, the number 1 time is when Alabama signed the 2017 group and signed Tua and Mac. That's got to be number 1. Well, that wasn't my point. My point wasn't how it turned out, because we don't know how it's going to turn out for Eli Holstein and Dylan Lonergan. They might be the number 1 pick in the draft and the number 2 pick in the draft 4 years from now. We don't know. Or neither one of them may never play a snap in their career at Alabama. So I didn't want to rank them based on how things turned out, because we just don't know yet. I wanted to rank them based on what they look like the day they signed with Alabama. Where were they ranked? And what was the general feeling about how good they were? And in that sense, I rank Dylan and Eli number 1. It's the only time of the 4 times Saban has signed 2 quarterbacks in one group. He's done it 4 times. This is the only time where both guys have been in the top 10. I rank Tua and Mac second because Tua was the number 3 quarterback in the country. Mac was something like the 19th best quarterback in the country. And I'm going off memory because I don't have the article in front of me. But it was like Tua was 3rd and Mac was 19th. The group I rated 3rd off the top of my head. Oh, of course, it was Talia and Paul Tyson. How about this fact? It's funny how, when careers play out, you don't remember kind of where they were ranked and recruited. But how about this? Holstein is the 8th rated quarterback in the country in the composite, in the on-3 composite. Talia was 7th. Talia was ranked 1 spot higher than Holstein is, which is pretty amazing. But Alabama also took Paul Tyson, and he was way down in the 20s or 30s, where he was ranked. So I ranked that group 3rd. And then last was the Cooper Bateman Parker McLeod duo. But again, Cooper didn't have a great career, so people forget Cooper Bateman was the number 6 quarterback in the on-3 consensus back when he signed in 2013. Number 6, Parker McLeod was way down, the lowest quarterback of all the ones we've discussed here, and that's why they rated 4th. And of course, as we know, things didn't really work out for Cooper or Parker. And the number 3 group, things haven't worked out for Paul Tyson yet, but they really have for Talia. I know most Alabama fans keep up with what's going on with Talia, but he's doing exceptionally well for the Terps. Hey, one thing I couldn't tweet today, Luke, and it's pretty stunning to me. It was just kind of interesting, and I may tweet it later, or you can, or whoever wants. This is just sort of like a weird coincidence. But when I was looking at Talia's numbers, I wanted to put his career numbers at Maryland in the article. So I Googled Talia's stats. And when I did, I accidentally came across Tua's with the Dolphins, because that's what Google, do you not want to look at Tua's stats? And I'm like, no. I actually want to look at Talia's stats. But I ended up looking at both. And this is the weird part. Tua and Talia, Tua with the Dolphins and Talia with Maryland, have thrown for almost the exact same yardage and the exact same number of touchdowns. And no, not exact. It's not apples to apples. And it's not, but the numbers are really close. It's kind of weird. It's like Tua's thrown for 4,800 yards with Miami, and Talia's thrown for 4,500 yards with the Terrapins. Talia's thrown like 28 touchdowns. Tua's thrown like 26. It's just funny. I was like, wow, their numbers are really weirdly identical. Mute. You're doing the mute.
Dang it!
People love it, though. People, you should be worried about the fact that the audience loves it when you're on mute.
Oh, my joke was it's almost like those two people are related. And that's pretty good. And I wondered why you didn't laugh until you said, dang it. All right. I got to tell everybody about Betonnline. Look, you got to. Look, if you want to bet on Tua's yardage this year, you want to bet on Talia's yardage this year, go to betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NHL playoffs, which is over. You can bet on it. You'd be very successful. And Major League Baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scopes. And betonline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline is where the game starts. Jimmy, whenever I do a live read for BetOnline, I remember we've all had a bookie in our day, and I have had one / have currently. Will continue to have, I think. And He's he's a little bit country, not so much rock and roll, but anyway, he's not going to be listening to this podcast, I can tell you that. But he once told me there was a game that I can't remember, maybe New England won years ago, and Tom Brady did something magical, whatever. And I told him, and I won, and he was like, "Yep, that game, it's just like wrestling, it's fixed." And I said, "But
What?
I said, if I don't know which way it's fixed, it doesn't matter. It can be fixed. But if I don't know, I know there's some big fish out there that may know which $1 zillion. I want my $30 teaser." So anyway, I just always thought that was a good story. Jimmy, so one other thing that came out, you and I have been talking about two guys, Raul Aguirre and
Suntarine Perkins.
Perkins hadn't actually flipped yet, so there's no guarantee he's going to flip. And then Aguirre is going to commit tomorrow, I think. Is that right? Tomorrow?
Right.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
And most people believe now it's going to be Miami. Is that right?
Right.
Well, what's happened, Jimmy?
Well, most people believe it's Miami, and I believe it's going to be Miami, and I believe at some point Perkins will commit to and sign with Alabama. That's what I believe. It's nothing I'm reporting because there's nothing to report, but I do believe Alabama will end up with Suntarine Perkins, and thus Raul Aguirre will end up at Miami. And in my mind, they're related. That doesn't mean that they are. I'm not telling anybody anything because, again, I don't get the memos or I'm not in those staff meetings, so I don't know. But here's just what makes sense to me, Luke. I think when you look at the depth chart, what Alabama's got coming back at inside linebacker, it makes sense that they would take 2 or possibly 3 inside linebackers. They've already taken Justin Jefferson. That's 1. So they got room for 1 or 2 more. Let's just say in this hypothetical world, you could get Aguirre and Perkins. So you take both. Okay, now you're done. Now you're absolutely done. You can't take 4. Then you're going to be short somewhere else, which is just, you can't do that. So what I'm saying is with 3, just a max number and 1 already in the house, it doesn't really make sense to me that you'd end up with Perkins and Aguirre. So I'm not saying Alabama's choosing between the 2. I'm not saying it's all designed for there to be 1 and 1. I'm just saying my personal expectation is Alabama ends up with 1 or the other. And my guess right now is Perkins flips to Alabama and Aguirre signs with Miami. And if it works out that way, Luke, again, I'm just speaking for me, not for Alabama, not for On 3 or these kids. I'm just saying, hey, if it ends up that way, I'm not going to look at Aguirre as a loss. If Perkins commits to Alabama, Aguirre is not a loss. Now, if Perkins doesn't flip and Aguirre picks Miami and Perkins ends up playing at Ole Miss and Aguirre at Miami, then maybe that is a loss. We just won't know till down the road. By the way, there's another couple of inside linebackers out there too that are still on the board that Alabama really likes, like Malik Bryant, who's not committing to the end of this month. You take Aguirre and Perkins, you really want to call Bryant and say, sorry, pal, we're out of room. So I expect to get 1 of the 2. I think the best chance is Perkins.
Not Aguirre.
I think it's Aguirre. Yep. Popo. Okay. He's got the coolest nickname out there. Just about one of the coolest nicknames this year in this cycle. His nickname is Popo, and that's what everybody calls him. I don't know exactly what it means, but I suppose it's the police, and he like patrols the middle of the field. In my head, that's what it is.
We hope that's the answer.
I hope so. It's really cool. If so, it's the coolest nickname I think in the whole cycle.
That is great. Like oh man, that would be super. Like if you had a defensive end, they called him, the detective because he always sniffs around and finds out, whatever. I mean, I'm
just saying, maybe he doesn't pronounce it Popo. Maybe he pronounces it something else, and it's in honor of his grandfather or something. And I'm really butchering this thing. I don't know. I just say in my head, it's Popo.
I understand
because he patrols the field.
I understand how I could say Aguirre versus Aguirre. What other way can you say Popo?
Popo?
There is no other pronunciation.
Maybe he says Popo.
P-O-P-O.
That's Popo to me.
That's Owen. That's Owen Popo.
Popo. He pronounces it Popo, doesn't he? Is it Owen Popo?
Man, he's going to make some more tackles before we get that right.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
All right, buddy, that's going to do it. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, roll tide.
Roll tide.